What's going on? My name's Kevin, and if you guys don't know me, I run a brand called KUTFTBL. Started it back in 2022 after I guess I was still playing football as this business started. Maybe it's a story for another time, or I'll give you kind of the brief rundown on how this brand started and whatnot. But played college football, grew up playing the sport, and I don't know, I guess I just always had a knack or an interest in football products. So as I got done playing in college, I was training for my pro day. This was back in, I ended my last college game was in December of 2019, and essentially started training for my pro day, had some interest from teams, and with the pandemic and all that, the timing was just horrible. I ended up moving back home, transitioning into working a full-time job. The football dream was kind of over, so I started to kind of, making moves on KUTFTBL. I always had some product ideas and wanted to stay connected and involved in the sport. Fast forward about a year and a half, I'm still working. I actually moved up to Los Angeles where I took a new job, full-time gig, even had a couple football opportunities roll in after kind of the pandemic I guess it was still going, but I had a couple CFL opportunities that actually randomly came back up, and I turned them down. I was done with football. And I got to the point when I was working my job in LA, I was about 8 months in, and I just had this weird feeling of just being like, hey, I need to go back and pursue trying to play football. So I actually moved back to San Diego, quit my job, started training again, full-blown pro day training all over again, my second go around at it. And kind of simultaneously to that, I was actually making some moves on KUTFTBL. So it's kind of funny too. I was trying to document the pro day in the process of it, but I just didn't. But I did share kind of like the journey along the way, like kind of starting from square one, like retraining, getting my feet back underneath me, kind of going from not running routes, not doing anything football related to getting back into the swing of things. So I went back to my alma mater and did my pro day. It went super well. I mean, I thought it went well for myself. It was just one of those things where it was like, I just wanted to go back and experience it because I didn't get to do that back in 2020. So went back, did that. For myself, I thought it went well. Like, I guess my numbers were better than they were back in 2020 when I was supposed to do my pro day. So I did that. So a couple weeks go by, we get to the draft, day 3 comes along. Obviously, that's kind of the time where I'm hoping to get a call. To some extent, go to a rookie minicamp, something along those lines. Nothing comes up. I get nothing, no phone calls. So after that, another week goes by, and at that point, I'm like, you know what? I gave it a shot. It was one of those things where I had no regrets. It was just kind of like, okay, I did it. I tried. But it's right at the last moment when I was like, okay, I'm done. I actually started applying for new jobs. I got a call. I got a tryout call for the Seahawks. So I'm like, shoot, it's potentially not over. So I go up to the tryout, and it's myself, Josh Rosen, who I was a UCLA fan, so it was kind of fun being able to do the tryout with him. And I think there was 3 other receivers. I go in there, it's kind of surreal, like just the whole process going from I'm working a job totally out of the football space to getting a tryout in the NFL. Regardless, this is at least what I worked for, to the point where it was like, this is all I wanted, which is an opportunity. So I go in there. They actually had us run a 40. I'm not even sure how fast I ran it. I wasn't the fastest guy, so I'm sure it wasn't like a 4.3 or a super low 4.4 or anything along those lines. But did the 40. I don't think we did anything else, and then started getting into running routes. And that's what was kind of cool. The quarterback was, like I mentioned, Josh Rosen, and he could spin the ball. So we started just doing routes on air. And I was like, you know what, just let it all out there, see what I can do. And I think the first route I ran, something simple, but caught it out of my frame. And I was like, okay, let's go. Like, I'm ready, I'm dialed. We probably run 15 to 20 routes. I don't think I had a drop, was going super well. Some of the coaches started coming up to me, and I was like, okay, they're showing a little bit of interest. Like, this is pretty cool. And finished up the workout. Pete Carroll was the coach at the time of the Seahawks, and coming up to me, asking me questions like, can you do punt return? Can you do special teams? Can you do this? And of course, I'm like, yeah. Yes, of course, I can. I mean, I wasn't a big special teams guy, but I did punt return and kick return in college, and I was like, I think there's an opportunity. I think something's going to maybe come of this. So we get done with the workout, talked to some of the coaches, went into the locker room, showered real quick. They said they're going to talk to us after. After the tryout, I went up to the dining hall area, and I'm sitting there eating food. And at this point, dude, I'm just like, worst comes to worst, nothing comes of this. I'm stoked. This was all I ever wanted. And my agent calls me and goes, hey, they're going to sign you. So at that point, I'm like, I'm already in shock. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? They're going to sign me. Coaching staff comes up to me. They're like, hey, really like what you did. We want to bring you back. So essentially this is like their off-season training program that I was going to be brought back to. So at this point, like, I'm kind of in shock. I think it's a Wednesday or a Thursday was the tryout. So I go in there, I get signed. So I don't even know what to think. And they're like, okay, you're going to fly back home, pack your stuff up, and come back on Monday. So just like that, went from like a corporate job, started to retrain and get back into the swing of things, and then I got signed by an NFL team. Just kind of a surreal moment for myself. But what the funny thing is too, like, I was training in 2022 when I had started Cut Football. So at this point, and I think we had one product we launched early in the year, our socks. I'm like, okay, well, business is going to take a little bit of put it on the back burner a little bit. And we had started posting a lot of organic and, views were getting pushed out. People were just sitting on their phones at home. So we were generating like a decent amount of sales from like the only product that we had on our site. And I'm like, shoot, well, it's going to take a little bit on, put the business on the back burner. Luckily I had family at home and a single product, website. I was able to actually teach them, and I kind of had to teach myself. And then they were kind of there to help me like with fulfillment and things along those lines. So they were able to print orders, get it packed, and we essentially would like pre-package everything because we had one product and people were buying one pair of socks, or if they bought two, we just whatever. So we had a bunch of single products packed. Yeah, so I essentially went home from the tryout, packed all my stuff up. I'm sitting there, I'm like, what am I? Okay, I gotta go back, and I'm gonna essentially like my new job is playing football. And obviously like in the off-season program, you're really not making any money. So I guess this was my job, but still, I mean, I didn't care. Like I would have paid to be there. Went back out to Seattle and just got right back into the swing of things. Obviously, like at this point too, you got to think about this. Like I'm not even undrafted. I'm a tryout guy. Like I was realistic to the point where like, hey, it was going to be a really tough uphill battle to make the team, but I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna give it my best shot. So I actually went in there. In the off season, you get a lot more reps. They're trying to see what guys can do. So I think like the first day there was no pads, just like going back out there, running routes, starting to learn the offense. And I'm already behind because at this point, the off-season program is already a few weeks in. So I'm gotta essentially learn a playbook again. And I hadn't heard a play call or been in a huddle since 2019. So that was kind of tough. Definitely a little bit more complex than my college playbook. Yeah, I started to get some reps in the off-season program, 7-on-7, things along those lines, and I started making some plays. So the whole off-season program goes by. It went super well. I went back, trained super hard, went back for training camp. I got a little bit bigger too. I spent a lot of time in the weight room running in super good shape, probably the best shape I've ever been in. Like, it's a lot different during training camp. Like, now at this point, like, there's 15 receivers, I'm number 15 on the depth chart, so I'm not getting any reps. So I understood that. Like, I'm not going to get it. They told us too, like, hey, you're not going to get a ton of reps in training camp. But during like team sessions, when you're going against a defense, want to say like out of like a 12 play rack, I would get like 2 plays. And some of those plays were like run plays. So I'm like, shoot, I got to make the most of it. I got to go block my butt off. And I actually did. I had a few plays dialed up for me where, made some plays during training camp. Obviously, then we did one-on-ones and all that. Did some good stuff there. And then obviously we start rolling into the preseason. The first game was in Pittsburgh. What's kind of funny in this story is that like I didn't get any reps. I wasn't on any special teams. Like I'm telling you, like I might as well have been passing out waters at this point. But I got in at the very end of the game, and then just kind of going out there, a lot of run plays. It's like there's like 4 minutes left in the game. The very last play, I don't know why we did it, but it was like we're down. You got to kind of like pitch the ball around and stuff. So the ball got thrown to me, and I threw it back to the quarterback, and the ball ended up like, tossing it around. It ended up like we lost like 10 yards on it. So the stat line at the end of the game, because I was the first one who touched it, I think it was like 1 reception for negative 10 yards. So that was kind of funny. I'm like, okay, great. I got my career stats. I've got negative 10 yards. So that was kind of funny. Next week of practice goes by. I'm still like anticipating. It's actually a home game, the next preseason game. And I'm like, okay, it's probably going to be pretty similar. I'm not going to get a ton of reps. But the next game actually got some action like in the second quarter. Kind of went out there. I think I ended the game with like 4 catches for like 40 yards or something. Made some guys miss, did some good stuff. But the very last play in the fourth quarter, or my last play, I caught like a little under route, made a guy miss, got upfield, and I tried to run someone over, and I separated my AC joint. So that was kind of a bummer. If you've never separated or had an injury to your AC joint, it sucks. I thought I broke my collarbone. I essentially, like the next week of practice, I was still I couldn't even lift my arm. I'm like, well, I'm not going to miss the next game. I got some more playing time in this game. But the last preseason game is like, they're dialing in the starters. It's kind of like a dress rehearsal before the season kicks off. So I wasn't expecting to play a lot. I took like 8 Advil to try to mitigate the pain. Nothing really helped. I got in towards the end of the game. We're playing the Cowboys. I had a catch. I actually probably could have scored too on a busted coverage, but they just didn't find me on it. And at the very end of the game, we got the ball back, and I run a big dagger route right across the middle, and I go up, and he throws it. It's not a bad pass. I catch it 99 out of 100 times. It's like right up here. And of course, I'm like, shoot. It's just like I'm having trouble extending, reaching up with my shoulder. I go up, deflects off my hands, interception. So that's kind of why they kept me around too, because I didn't drop anything. I had some crazy plays in training camp, off-season program. I don't drop passes. But of course, and it's kind of funny, you kind of get humbled in that aspect where it's like my very last play ever in football is a drop pass interception. So that still kind of eats me up today, bugs me, because that was my thing. I could catch the ball. So, after that, that's when they start making cuts, and I'm like, I'm a pretty realistic guy. I'm like, it's probably coming to an end. So I got cut. They make you, they kind of make you feel good when you're leaving. You did some good stuff. They were kind of like, dude, like you shouldn't have even been here more than a week for guys that we bring on tryouts and just seeing what you could do. You did some good stuff. And it was kind of one of those things where the door was still left open. I went home for 6 weeks, which was kind of a blessing because my shoulder was still messed up. So I was able to heal up. And then I ended up getting signed back to the practice squad in Seattle. So went back up there. I was kind of one of those guys where, they had to move me around a little bit in the sense that, like, I would get released after a couple weeks. They'd bring me back to the practice squad, release me, bring me back, release me, bring me back. So I did that essentially for that whole year. And then it kind of finally came to an end. We were actually in Germany. Was my last time on the team. That's when we played, they played the Bucks with Brady, which was kind of cool to be able to watch Brady up close and personal. But like I was doing like scout team, I was a scout team fullback. So I'm like, dude, I'm in a 3-point stance. This is probably coming to an end. And it did. That was my last week. I got cut, didn't get brought back. I actually went to a tryout in Denver towards the end of the year. Nothing really came of that. Felt good about it too, where it's like, hey, this is probably over. Still kind of running the business too while I was doing all this. And then I actually thought about going to the XFL. Actually went there for a week, and then something felt off. Like there's a bunch of guys, which it's like, hey, you're just competition, you got to compete, but something didn't feel right. And I was missing the business too. Like this is something that, we had some traction, had some stuff going, and I was like, I want to dedicate my time to that. So after a week of being in the XFL, I went to one practice. I told them, you know what, like, hey, my heart's just not in this. I have something else that I want to pursue. And I moved back home and started going full go at the business. So I guess year one was technically in the business 2022. I count that. That's when the business got started. But I'd say 2023 was that first year I really got to dedicate a lot of time and energy into the business. That's kind of how this business got started with, still trying to make the football dream stay alive. So just a little bit about myself. And I guess, we fast forwarded to today, December 2025. What I love about it is that I'm still connected to the sport. Bring, products and stuff that I kind of wanted when I was playing. I just like disrupting and finding new ways to bring, I guess in this case now, products to life. Stuff that's just different from what's out there in the football space. Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun. We've been able to go from a single product store back in 2022. Now I think we're going to have probably over 25 products this year. Socks, arm sleeves, compression wear, as the brand's grown, and that's been super cool. I mean, just this past week, we had the number 1 athlete in the country doing some, content with him. So, dude, it's been kind of surreal. We've been able to have our stuff worn by a lot of top athletes, from the Jaden Daniels, the Jackson Darts. Debo was wearing it the other week. Who else? Saquon's wearing our stuff. Just a bunch of guys. And it's like, things happen for a reason, and your purpose in life changes, I always wanted to be obviously playing the NFL, and it's kind of shifted to being, hey, I want to, bring the coolest football products to the space. And that's kind of what I feel like my purpose is. Like, I kind of feel like my mindset shifted from like when I was training, going full go at, trying to play football. I love the whole training and the process of it. Now I love this process even more, where I'm obsessed with that now. It's cool because it's like I've found this passion. It's kind of like put the money aside, put, generating revenue, sales, all that stuff. I just care about bringing cool stuff to the table. So kind of a long-winded video to some extent. I didn't think it was going to be this long. But I just like to share, I guess, the aspect of, there is an element where it's like, if you put your mind to it and don't let the naysayers and people, dictate what you want to do, whether it be in a sport, business, hobby, passion, and you kind of dictate the terms of it, not being concerned of what people think, even from like a business perspective too. It's just like I'm a little bit delusional in that aspect. Kind of a long-winded story, but yeah. So hopefully I'll be able to continue to share and the story and the behind the scenes of the business, because that's kind of what I do on a day-to-day basis now. So there you go.